Hello, Curious! Many of you have probably grown up watching Disney movies and are familiar with most of the stories that even today, during our adult days, bring us comfort. One of the most beloved films from the company in the late 90s was Mulan. The audiences were captivated by animations, the plot, the music, and of course, Li Shang. So naturally, when Disney announced that they would make a live-action remake of the movie, its fans should have been thrilled, right? What did the actress from the new film say that angered people? And how have the filming locations caused so much criticism? And why did the most beloved characters from the animated version have been cut from the new one? Stay with me to find out, but before we continue, make sure you turn on the notifications and subscribe to our channel. Before I go on talking about the movies, its differences, and the reason for the boycotts, it's worth mentioning that the story is based on an ancient Chinese folk story called the Ballad of Mulan. It was a short poem that was created somewhere between the year 386 and 534. In China, the story is a household tale to encourage girls to be brave, or as the animated film says, make a man out of you. The general idea of the story is pretty much the same, but there are several differences. Also, a heads up if you've never seen Mulan, I warn you that this will contain spoilers, and if you plan on watching the new Disney remake, then it will contain a few of them as well. Though if you have never seen the original movie, what are you waiting for? Now, in the poem, the story doesn't start with Mulan visiting a matchmaker, but with her being upset that her father had been called to war. Though it does slightly draw onto the idea that Mulan isn't worried about things like marriage, and it explains how her sorrow has nothing to do with a romantic partner. This is also why Li Shang does not make an appearance in the text, as it focuses more on her achievements and actions rather than her personal life. And speaking of achievements, by the time she did take her father's place, our heroine was already a skilled warrior in martial arts as well as archery. Despite the movie only showing her being active in the army for the duration of one battle, the ballad certainly clearly talks about hundreds of them, her traveling long distances, and in total, she was in the army for 12 long years. It also does not single out any of her achievements, but talks collectively of the army. And the most important part, during all of those years, her identity was never revealed. She did this herself after she got to return home, and while shocked, her fellow soldiers did not feel any malice towards her. And in 2009, a movie based on the original text was released in its country of origin, which was much more well received as it actually stuck to what was written in the poem. Now onto the topics of the films. When the animated movie was released, the Chinese audiences didn't take kindly to it, and for many reasons. According to a writer for HuffPost who is of Chinese origin, the audiences criticized how the movie confused the Chinese tradition of a family clan with that of Native Americans, mainly due to the use of the word ancestors, and that people weren't happy with how the emperor bowed to Mulan at the end of the movie, which they claimed is ridiculous in their culture. Oh, and that everyone there hated Mushu the same way that people would later come to hate Jar Jar Binks, as well as they didn't like the romance plot, the jokes, the music. Yet outside of China, the story of Mulan is beloved by many. Both of the Disney movies follow basically the same idea of the plot, with a few changes of course. One of them being that instead of the Huns in the live-action movie, the country is attacked by the Rurans. One of the decisions of the changes in the new one that upset the fans was the choice to cut out the music. I'm sure many of you to this day have the song "I'll Make a Man Out of You" stuck in your head to this day. It's probably one of the best motivational songs ever and one of the most beloved of the fans of the movie. Digital Spy reported that the film's director, Nikki Caro, made the choice to not make it a musical as they wanted to achieve a certain level of realism. With the remake, her explanation was, "We do not tend to break into song when we go to war." And while that's true, it does make it for a fun movie. However, she did add that the live-action one does honor the music from the animation in a very significant way. Then, there was of course the aspect of everyone's, well, at least outside of China, the most beloved character, Mushu, the scrawny, cheeky little dragon that could easily fit in Mulan's palm, was voiced by Eddie Murphy, and the audiences were quick to mark him as one of the best characters in the entire film. So another disappointment is that he will not be making an appearance in it. In the 2020 Mulan film version, her father invokes the power of a phoenix, a symbol that is referenced throughout the movie, to watch over his daughter. Before its release, the director spoke out and said that everyone can agree that Mushu is irreplaceable. And while that is true, many said that same thing about Robin Williams' Genie in Aladdin, yet Will Smith did a good enough job when he played the role in the live-action one. And of course, one of the biggest outcries was when fans found out that Li Shang would not be making an appearance in the film. When that news was announced, many speculated that the reason for this might have been to downplay the undertones of the same-gender relationships, since it can be said that Shang started to have feelings for Mulan while she was still disguised as a man. Some even said that since they were trying to appeal to a more Chinese audience with the story being closer to the original text, the producers consciously made this choice, and as the country's government is not very fond of LGBT content. Though in reality, the filmmakers claim that the reason for this choice was due to the #MeToo movement that they found inappropriate for Mulan's love interest to be her commanding officer. Instead, they split the character into two different ones. The first one being Commander Tung, who is her mentor, and the other a soldier named Hong Q, who grows close to her. Of course, it wouldn't be a Mulan movie without the dramatic scene where she is revealed to be a woman. So in both of the films, the truth comes out after a protagonist is injured, but it happens in a different way. The animated version, she is hurt by the villain's blade, which then leads to her being stripped in the medical tent so that they can tend to her wounds, and thus revealing her identity. As for the live action, she is injured by Xiang Xiang's throwing stars. However, the new film allows our heroine to make the decision to out herself and her true identity. In the middle of the battle, she lets down her hair, and thus the truth comes out. It is a really empowering scene, which is much more in the spirit of the character from the original ballad. We also get a change when it comes to the villains. Instead of Shan Yu, the leader of the invading northern army is Bori Khan, and he has more motivations than just conquering China, which adds some depth to his character. And instead of fighting with the Huns, it is the Rurans, which some historians claim is more accurate, as of the Huns during Mulan's time were more set on invading Europe. Now this also brings us to a completely new character named Xiang Yang. The animated villain has a falcon, which also acts as a spy, but then it never takes a human form like our new edition of the movies does. And according to the filmmakers, they wanted to bring a new female antagonist as a way to balance out the protagonist. And now you may be wondering, besides all the changes, why has there been so much outcry and even going as far as boycotting it? Surely it's not because they cut out the music or because a few characters were removed, right? Well, no, it is much more serious matter. One of the leading causes of the #Boycott Mulan was after the news came out that in August of last year, the actress Yifei Liu, who happens to play the title role, expressed her support for the Hong Kong police. She started a post on her Weibo account, which is like a Chinese microblogging site similar to Twitter. And in the post, she wrote, "I support the Hong Kong police. You can all attack me now. What a shame for Hong Kong." Now, if you're unfamiliar with the situation in the region, then I will briefly explain it to you. In February of last year, the government of Hong Kong proposed an amendment bill that would allow the extradition of criminal fugitives to mainland China. That sparked a wave of protests from the residents who saw this as the beginning of the end of their region's relatively autonomy that it had enjoyed since 1997 under the One Country, Two Systems Agreement, which allowed them to have a high degree of autonomy for 50 years that was set to end in 2047. The protests began in March of 2019 and have only escalated from there. The police that the actress expressed support to were recorded on camera using brutal methods against the protests, such as deploying tear gas, among others. According to a Hong Kong website, Apple Daily, it is estimated that the police have arrested over 10,000 protesters. South China Morning Post has also reported that during this period, 2 people lost their lives, which in turn caused the protests to intensify even more. Naturally, as you can imagine, people were not happy because of the actress's post. Soon after it was uploaded, the #Boycott Mulan began trending in Hong Kong and the US, with users accusing the actress of supporting the condemning actions of the police. Many also criticized her for getting into a conversation that she had no stake in as an American citizen. However, it is worth noting that despite having an American citizenship, the actress was born in Wuhan and migrated to the US at the age of 10. She does work primarily in mainland China, and like many stars who have Chinese citizenship, she would be in danger of being blacklisted by the government and prevented from working again in the country if she didn't abide by the government's strict censorship laws. Though it does seem like Liu's comments on her social media page were her own violation and did not appear to be compelled to make the statement by her agency or the government. The second issue at hand is related to the treatment of the Uyghur Muslims in China's Xinjiang region, where parts of the film were shot. The US State Department estimates that more than 1 million Uyghurs, as well as the members of other Muslim minority groups, have been detained and forced into re-education camps where reportedly are subject to cruel and inhumane treatment as well as forced labor. According to CNN, at first Beijing denied the existence of the camps. Later, they claimed that they were voluntary vocational training centers where the people got to learn job skills as well as Chinese language and laws. But now the government insists that the camps are necessary to prevent the upholding of extreme religious beliefs. So how does this relate to the movie? The outcry doesn't come from the fact that they filmed in the region, but that they gave thanks to it in the credits. In a tweet published by novelist Jeanette Ng, the film credits for the movie show a special thanks to the publicity department of CPC Shenyang Uyghur Autonomous Region Committee, which supposedly is the propaganda wing of the ruling China Communist Party's Xinjiang government. The credits also thank the Bureau of Public Security in Turpan, a municipality in the region, which last year was sanctioned by the US government for human rights violations. And many have expressed on social media that supporting the movie is the equivalent to being complicit in these violations. So despite its premiere being constantly pushed back due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the movie is currently available to watch on Disney Plus platform as its first premiere access title, with a $30 fee if you want to watch it. However, it is worth noting that it will become available on all Disney Plus subscribers on December 4th. So my curious friends, what are your thoughts on the original tale? Will the new movie be better received in China, or will they be disappointed by it? What are your thoughts on all the calls to boycott it? Have any of you seen the new film yet? And if you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.